So again, good morning. Welcome here to the, I would almost say the beautiful London, but you know, looking outside, but you know, spring is around the corner, right? So we should get there in the better weather soon. All right, kicking off how IoT players are addressing the demand for the global IoT connectivity. So and for that, I'll stop actually talking. I'll give everybody a quick minute to introduce themselves. So please, Vale.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Valentina. Been in China Mobile now for 9 years. So I was one of the first employee at China Mobile UK. I'm sales director for the carrier wholesale part of the business. And I look after from, let's say, subsea capacity infrastructure, data center, IP transit, and also all the, let's say, mobility product like messaging, sponsor roaming, IPX, and now IoT. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and very welcome here. Thank you. Aaron, I think you're next on the list.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Dehiri. I am the MD of a boutique specialist consultancy practice called Red Dawn Consulting, which I've been doing for many years. We specialize in all things TMT, and in particular, IoT is a hot topic for us. But we do market intelligence, we do strategy, and we also do some operational implementation. But you'll learn more about what I know in a few minutes.
Thank you so much. And Ulf?
Yeah, hello, my name is Ulf Morfeld. I'm from Telefonica Global. I've been working 10 years ago for Deutsche Telekom worldwide, and I'm sales expert in IoT business since over 15 years. So yeah, it's very lovely to join you here and having a good time.
Thank you so much, Xavier.
Oh, good morning, everyone. My name is Shopper. I'm working as a technology program manager for the Doha-based telco group for the Ooredoo. We are the main sponsor for the FIFA World Cup just right now. It's just a few weeks back. So I work for the technology program management deputed right now in Oman, taking care of different revenue streams, working closely with executive management, and including IoT is one of them.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ronnie.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Cohen. I'm the co-founder of Flow.Live. Flow.Live manages infrastructure, connectivity infrastructure for mobile networks and service providers, all the full stack of core network and all the BSS services for mobile. So we are the infrastructure behind the connectivity for many of the IoT service providers.
Thank you so much. And I think now you all have a good impression of that the senior experts are sitting here around this coffee table here with a lot of water. So Valentina, may I invite you and talk us through how you are addressing the demand, right, on the IoT side. Thank you. It's always the clicker. It's always the clicker.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, hello, everybody. I just thought to start, I bring you back to NWC. I have, fond memories because in all the years I've been there, China Mobile in the last, let's say, 3 it was absent. So it was a big hole there. So just this is the picture of our booth. In the booth, we really showcase a lot of the new technologies for 5G and IoT. So there will be material around, and I can maybe help if you are still interested to have a look, and you might have missed it before. Well, so just really to introduce China. I mean, there is no surprise, or everybody really knows that even for the IoT, we kind of lead the way as a workshop of the world. That's how we've been described by the GSMA. And this is really due to the fact that apart from having built a really big network, we also look after a lot of device and research and development, and also new IoT solutions. So a bit more about the China Mobile IoT company, which is part of China Mobile Group, and is really the core of our IoT knowledge and what we develop in China. The company has been established 19 years ago. And let's say it started the business as a M2M product service provider, but really developed into managing the full stack of an IoT solution. And we really achieve a big milestone, which is really reaching nearly 1 billion IoT connection in China. So that makes the China Mobile IoT company one of the world's largest IoT private networks. I think two things I wanted to share with you today. You probably are aware NB-IoT coverage in China is really well developed. So we still really rolling out more NB-IoT coverage, and also the China Mobile IoT Alliance. That is really the part of the ecosystem that we built in China. So yes, we can still do the connectivity, the chipset and module. We can still also design devices and platforms. However, we build up a partnership of over 1,700 companies around us, helping us to deliver this IoT project. Yeah, this is just an overlook of really what the IoT company does and sell. So from the chipset and module, one chip and one more, to the connectivity management platform, which is self-developed by us. And the connectivity management platform and the chipset and module are really our core for China. We are still an MNO, we are still an infrastructure provider. We base all our, let's say, the basis of our business is these two items. However, we are also developing devices, smart devices, also operating system, and we also self-developed a SaaS platform, IoT application device management platform called OneNet. That makes us capable, of course, in China to provide for the customer the full end-to-end solution. What do we do abroad? So I'm part of China Mobile International, which is the international branch of China Mobile. And we really provide for, let's say, international carrier or international IoT players, the coverage for SIM, SIM card, the network in China, and also Asia Pac via our IoT roaming agreement. Yes, and so definitely, yeah, we present ourselves as the partner for China and Asia Pac, but also, let's say, we are rolling out some. Yes, so we are rolling out also a global SIM that we are really building up right now. So we leverage our relationship in the consumer roaming space. We have around 471 partners for roaming. So that we are really trying now to work on the major area of interest for China Mobile to really set up IoT roaming agreement. So that will make our global SIM quite strong in the years to come. And this is really, you know, we are preparing this product for our enterprise, Chinese enterprise customer. But of course, then it can be used also from global customer and your customer as well. We are also marketing the connectivity management platform as a service in China by our own self-developed platform, but also abroad we are using Ericsson DCP, and which is deployed in Singapore. In Europe instead, we deployed a SaaS platform which we also offer as a service. And this is deployed in AWS in Ireland. IoT roaming, and also we position, we propose ourselves for IoT solutions. So why are we experts in IoT connectivity? Well, in China, we really managed to roll out 1 billion IoT connections. So, and this IoT connection, it can be a mix of technologies. So don't only think of us as a cellular mobile operator, of course, but depends on the user case. We can also offer other technologies, and our platform are ready to integrate to other technologies too. Of course, the 5G network now is a talk from everybody, and so in China, definitely we are one of the biggest, and we can also leverage some of our knowledge of the 5G network and the 5G technology for your IoT solution here in Europe. So we've been working with different hardware providers, so from Huawei, ZTE, but also Ericsson and Nokia. If you're using one of these equipment provider and are rolling out a specific project where we can help with, that we can really become your, let's say, technology consultant for this. Yes, so for the, I wanted to explain a bit more about our SaaS platform, because this is what will be our answer to the market in Europe and also EMEA. So SaaS platform is called Ringa. We deployed in AWS Dublin. Is GDPR compliant. It can integrate different device vendor. We already integrated Google and AWS product. And also it can be white label for your customer, and it can also connect to different clouds. And this is, I think, a very important point with depending on what is your cloud strategy within the company. Yes, so the Ringa platform for us has been deployed to address the demand for Ringa building, let's say smart home, smart building, could be a smart factory, a smart campus. We're really, really knowledgeable on this, so we can definitely help. I just wanted to show some case study on the IoT side, which also show how our expertise can be deployed also for global solution. For example, this is a solution that we deploy for a logistic company, and the cargo is being transported from China into Spain by different means of transport, so on wheels and then also by train and ship. So we can do that. And another case which we deploy in Germany for one of our biggest Chinese customer. This is a battery manufacturer from China, and they have really, really big warehouse in Germany. And we basically deployed all the, let's say, security with smoke detector and the utilization of our platform SaaS and all the let's say, alarm management and API available to the employees. In this case as well, we partner with a local provider for LTE SIM. So this is really one of the messages I have for you today. We are getting a lot of demand from Chinese enterprises to go out of China and deploy it abroad, and we will need your help for this. And this is the main, let's say, the process we're going through now is building the ecosystem in Europe and EMEA. And same, another case in Belgium. This, for example, we use LoRaWAN. So it depends really on the user cases. And this was the also the outdoor security. we can maybe have a bit more technical and details presentation on this if you are interested. So I think from what we saw so far out of China, the most requests that we receive for IoT solution are really related to the smart building, smart campus, smart logistic and fleet management, and also smart agriculture and aquaculture. That could be very interesting, as in China we really roll out a lot of different solutions. So please, feel free to really come and ask what we did, or also present your case. So just a bit more about the connectivity part. I think I wanted to mention briefly the 5G. I think we will speak more about 5G private network in the afternoon. But really what we showcase in Barcelona is some of the most advanced solution that we have for 5G private networks, the Internet of Vehicles and smart ports and smart mining. This is also part of, let's say, take on the IoT connectivity as well as part of the solution. And yes, then I think in the afternoon, I would like to talk a bit more about 5G application that we are developing in China. So I really wanted to just give a brief overview at what our China Mobile CEO said during NWC, and he really explained how we are just at the beginning of the digitalization of the world, and what we do now, it will just become, it will give us so many opportunities and so many different applications to work with. I think I maybe just really like to mention this maybe during the panel as a surprise, or a bit more in the afternoon. But yes, I think that the major message here is if you need Asia Pac and China, please do come to us. If you have any pain point or any issue, maybe for 5G development, or some complicated IoT solution that you would like to roll out in your own area, please do come to us. We might have a solution. We might be able to give you some advice. We are an MNO like you are, or an IoT player like you are. Please do come to us, and we will talk, as equals, because we went through the same issue, and we went through that probably before. Same issue you experience now, we went through that before. Thank you very much today.
Thank you so much, Valentina, and thank you so much for kicking off the IoT Summit here at the GCCM in London. So thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, you saw it most probably, Shane joined us quickly from Verizon. So welcome for you as well here at this panel discussion. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Valentina? Please. Thank you so much.
Tracking, and my question is, do you use Chinese SIM card in Europe that are roaming here? Do you use local connectivity with partners that you're using their SIM cards off? So what's your approach here? Okay, so it's in roaming in Europe, potentially permanently roaming as well?
Oh, sorry, where is possible, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The other question is a very blunt question. Do you earn money with narrowband IoT?
I can reply to you later because I don't have visibility on the figures, but it's so widely spread in China. So I believe it's maybe not much money, but is a demand from the customer, definitely, especially.
Okay. Last question, promised. Do you offer local connectivity, like by country? Because you can do roaming. You just said you're roaming in Europe, but is this an option, that you use local connectivity?
Yes, we are trying to negotiate some agreement now, whereby depends on the user case, right? As everything in IoT. So depends if the item is moving or if it's static in that country. So definitely, we're also looking at individual country roaming agreement or a coverage agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much for your 3 questions. Thank you so, Valentina. Again, thank you so much. So, talking about the global IoT connectivity and how the players are addressing it and the operators. I mean, I think we are with quite some operators around here. But Arun, if I may ask you to kick off, looking at the IoT and an IoT connectivity landscape, what do you see around you? What should we watch? I mean, you with Red Dawn Consulting. I mean, you have a helicopter view global on what's going on. So, what can you tell us? How does it look from your side?
Thanks, Eric. So, like any good consultant, we break the market down into typically 3 things, right? So,
make it easy
in layers, make it easy to understand. So, I'll start by setting the scene as to what we see as the emerging players, right? I mean, we'll go into more detail about the services that are emerging, but there's lots to say on that. But I think that we get involved in a lot of M&A projects. It's a big topic right now, huge acquisitions and consolidation happening. And we also get involved in, the biggest question we get asked, which is go to market, which is relevant to, most people here, is how do we win against competition, right? And what we don't realize is there are 3 types of player. If we think of it this way, then we'll win in business. So what
do you tell them? You're late or what?
No, not at all. It's about being, well, I've got specific answers as to how to win business, but as I go through each one, then we'll see later on in the conversation, I'll bring them up. But the first sort of player is the infrastructure player that is emerging into IoT. So for example, let's take Nokia, and they've got the Wing platform. And then we've got Ericsson and obviously China Mobile, who I classify as a kind of traditionally infrastructure player. So they've got the grassroots, the hardcore infrastructure. Then we move into the next layer up, and we look at service providers that typically would MVNO off buy the airtime from a carrier, and then they would add some value-added services. So examples of there would be wireless logic, eSay, Core, and there's a good few dozen of those. And then the third player, which is emerging, one to watch out for, are what I would call BSS or platform players, right? And there we're seeing, so there's a company called Talina in Netherlands that I was crafted in. I was a chief commercial officer, and we spun it into an IoT business, because the difference between voice and data from a platform perspective and a wholesale perspective isn't much different from IoT. It's just the way you present it, the way you have certain applications, and the way you handle devices. And so we spun it into an IoT business. One deals across the globe, and then we sold it to Tata. It's now called Tata Move, which I'm sure you all know. Another example would be Transitel, who got acquired by a Japanese business. And then you've got one which sort of sits kind of in the middle of infrastructure, all of these, which is really Sierra Wireless, less BSS. So kind of that's my kind of take on the overall infrastructure side of things in terms of how the players sit. And then as we go through, I'll talk to you about, some specific applications. But I wanted to just make one quick point here, which is that to win in this game, you've got to be very specific to the industry vertical that you're targeting. And I'll come on to that later. Yeah.
And we know exactly why, but as you said, we'll come to that. Shabir, what do you see, let's say, in your beautiful region? What's happening there? What is your overview on the connectivity within the IoT space?
Thanks, Eric. Well, except before, most of the time, like we hear the bad news is the market size gets shrinking, the revenue streams are shrinking as well. So the main focus was in the last couple of years, especially post-COVID, we were looking for the new revenue streams. Now, IoT is one of them. Actually, IoT was not the key target. The key target was data monetization. So IoTs help you to collect the data, and then on the way of moving forward, you can mega data lakes, segmentation, all the way to the personalizations. So what we did so far, one successful use case working with the government entities, with electric smart meters, IoT connectivity. Well, it's up and running for the last couple of years. The next one is we are collaborating with the transportation industry, again with the government entity as well. So in short, like we from the shoes of the telco, well, we're trying to bring more coins in the pocket. That's the main goal. There's no shame on it. But the only thing that how we can ambiguity talk about the strengths and bring some new revenue streams on it other than data and voice. Where it comes from, like there's a third operator in the market. The market, you can imagine like the market size of 3 million people and the 3 operators in the market. It's a very not a good picture at all. So well, let me summarize. Let's say, yep, we are working in IoT as well, and the main goal is to bring new revenue streams on the boat.
Okay, Ronnie, what's your take on?
Well, our take on it is that really the infrastructure needs to be there. We're an infrastructure player. As opposed to perhaps what you were saying, we believe it's a single infrastructure. The MNOs really need a single infrastructure to service the IoT segments, the enterprise. Having multiple platforms really is cumbersome and doesn't really work. There's a lot of integration that's needed. The MNOs can't really afford it in terms of the price levels. These price points are not what the MNOs were typically used to on the ARPUs of the handset users, human users. Hence, a single platform, a lot more localized. We power today maybe 15 of the leading service providers in the market. They're using our infrastructure, they're using our platforms, as well as some sort of 10 or so MNOs who are using our CMP platforms. But really, as opposed to roaming and obviously Valentina, which we know as colleagues for many years, we tend to see that the market is moving towards more localized connectivity. The GDPR issues, the questions that we've been asked here, the roaming, the security, that we feel that there is less control of that security. So that's the trends that we see: security, GDPR, permanent roaming restrictions. It's all coming back to the same sort of thing, localized infrastructure. And that's for me the trend that I see. I think, just to sort of summarize that, this is driven by the enterprise. The enterprise is becoming a lot more sophisticated. Dare I say, they've way overtaken the MNOs at this. The MNOs are catching up on this. And the enterprise has become sophisticated because it really didn't have a choice. The answers were just not there. The services were just not there for them.
Okay, Ronnie. Okay, hold on. That point. And maybe for the rest as well. Because are you saying that the demand is coming from the enterprise? But isn't it true that also we need to make sure that they understand what they are talking about?
I think, to be perfectly honest, I think the large enterprise, the tier 1, the blue chip enterprise customers, the automotive industry, has created that. If I'm honest, I think the MNOs are chasing the RFP and trying to figure out what is the details that they need to offer there. It's not just the EUICC and let's offer an EUICC platform. It's quality of service. It's the lack of ability to control the security policy on a roaming network. So when you offer it, you may be very, very good, on your own network where you control the opcos and some operator groups. I mean, Vodafone with many, many operators, and Telefonica Group, and etc. Very good in their own networks, but very difficult to control. And it's nothing on them. It's just the reality of how these networks were built. They were built for handset users. And that capability of controlling someone else's network on a security policy and provide a single policy across all your network is just not there. It's definitely not there on the price points that are moving commercially. We could live with bad commercials, but we can't live with bad security. We can't live with bad, when I say bad, we can't live without having a single security policy across the roaming infrastructure. And also it's very difficult to control someone else's network in terms of performance. So if I sorry, I've taken a lot of the answer here, but if I concluded, I'd say that the enterprise has demands and it's driving innovation. If I may just sort of finish it off with also, there's a lot of technology that has been built, and I think, China Mobile has done fantastic on that. The technology that the enterprise is building on has become, it's Kubernetes, it's cloud-based, it's microservices, it's in the, so the enterprise needs that, and it needs a platform to connect that. And we see that as a trend. It needs, transparency, and the MNO needs to provide that transparency into these types of more, open services.
Okay, we can still argue about the adoption by the enterprises, because I still think that there is still some things to educate them actually, but that's more for the specialists. So Ulf, from Telefonica point of view, what do you see? What is your view on the IoT connectivity? What do you see around? And maybe you can link this a little bit to LATAM as well, because you're playing a big part there as well. So off you go.
Okay, to be honest, I always say the truth is beautiful. It will be a long journey. So I'm doing IoT since 15 years. And when I look back, what numbers of SIM cards connectivity has been mentioned 5 or 10 years ago? And now we're looking. The numbers never has been reached. So we keep the baby somehow alive. That's the true fact. And if you really earn money with IoT, to be honest, no. We do it because we need it, because it's strategically important for us. And we see right now, especially in Europe, there is a higher demand. And coming back to some customers, the biggest market, I would say, even in the US or in Europe, they're very smart, is the automotive sector. They have built up so much knowledge. It's impressive. It's really impressive. They know exactly how our networks work. They know exactly what they want. So they really did their homework quite well good. And the other thing, what is just booming right now, especially in Germany, in terms of rising cost, inflation, it's the smart meter sector. Everybody cares about money personally. Gas prices arise, electricity prices arise. And now there is a huge impact where we see in Europe, it's really booming. About track and trace, I hear this story since over 15 years. There are some global players, as Valentina mentioned, but it will come, but it's not there, to be honest. And in terms of our market, we have to see also cultural impact. China works completely different than, or is different than the European mentality, even the American mentality. So we have to catch up with the customer. And that's the thing. What I learned in the past, it's about listen to the customer. Where does have the customer the pain? And not selling any more products, what we did in the past. Everybody get his back and say, look, lovely customer, I have these kinds of products. Here's a price tag, buy it, adios. No, it's completely different. It's about building trust, because we catch up the DNA of the customer. So we're talking about strategical important thing. It's not like a mobile phone, what you can maybe change in between 1 month or 24 months, and then you replace it. It's kind of commodity. It's like butter. Butter almost tastes the same. But if you talk about strategical IoT, it's about building up trust. And the good thing, they flop out some coins in the end. But this is really the long-term business that makes us successful, because the complexity is so high. And you have to see the customer. They're on different levels, different stages, educated and not educated. So you have to check out on what level you pick up the customer. And these kinds of things, especially also in the Latin market. The Latin market is booming in terms of prepaid, because the money and the trust about the payments is not there. If they don't have the money, they cannot use the phone. If they don't have the money, what they should do, then the business is somehow dead. It's like very interesting when you go to in the Indian market. It's like booming, but the revenue for us there is very, very low. So we have to think about, does it make sense in terms of connectivity, in terms of roaming? And what I see also in terms of packages about data, really it's going up. It's really going up. A lot of customers asking for 1 gigabyte per SIM, or maybe also 100 gigabyte per SIM. And we have to check, like, does it work even in Australia, or does it work in Africa? Because prices go so up that we have to tell the customer, okay, you pay more for roaming than for the hardware that you maybe have to buy. So this is like finding a way of discussions with the customer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, we were just already pinpointing a bit on the enterprises. So how are the new IoT and big, or shall we call it massive, data technologies changing the enterprise businesses?
Yeah, I think it's open knowledge, so everybody knows how what IoT is actually bringing is big data, and it's all it's kind of the same thing nearly. Yes,
It's becoming massive.
yes.
Data.
So yeah, so the I value at the biggest is even the IoT project, or what the enterprise actually need is really this big data. So the management can make a decision very quickly. They can predict patterns. They can also predict security issue. They can even find out new products on what is the need for the future, analyzing this data. And I think it's really interesting what is coming out today, because the IoT, maybe we don't really know as yet how to monetize it or to make a lot of money, but it seems that it doesn't go away. It's part of the, the disruptive technologies that put everything together with AI, blockchain.
It's a logical
network.
outcome.
So the IoT, there is always a piece of IoT in there. So we really need to, and big data. So now we really need to work on this and see where is the most successful cases and where we can monetize on that. But definitely, China has a big project for let's say big data and the computational, let's say, power. So there is nothing now that has been developed without the idea of computational power and what you can do with this big data and how you can secure it and how we can use it for the future.
Okay, thank you, Shane. We didn't hear you yet, but now we will, because you're representing a Verizon, so you know exactly what we're talking about. What is your view, let's say, on IoT, maybe also from a Verizon perspective, and how are you addressing this to your enterprise customers?
Sure. So first of all, I'll say it's refreshing to see other people that have been kind of through the gauntlet and really talk truthfully about IoT. It's an interesting space in the sense that as a network provider, we're not getting out of the business because we own the network, we own the the carrier services. And our customers, as you mentioned, our enterprise customers are looking for partners that can solve for global solutions. So that is driving eSIM, EUICC. But at the same time, we want to have ownership of that data, make sure that we're following the proper regulations. So there's, from my viewpoint, there's both the demand from the customers driving IoT and the sovereignty and the global reach. And then there's, of course, our own interest in driving, ensuring the data is secure, as well as providing the services on top of that network. So when we talk about IoT, for us, we view it as being profitable in the sense that we have the commercials, designed for IoT that will provide the appropriate return. What we're trying to get to now is how do we continue to scale this? And we think it's going to scale over time. Because if I was selling something at no cost, or if I was losing money, we wouldn't be doing it in the short term if there wasn't that long-term direction. So when we talk about solving for IoT at Verizon, especially on the global scale, we look towards EUICC and eSIM capabilities. Our customers are looking for those MVNOs or those partners that have the international roaming capabilities. And I'll break that down a little further. Day one has always been, hey, we'll leverage your roaming. Day two has been, how do we kind of evolve that roaming relationship and develop a relationship for eSIM and that enables that data to remain sovereign to the Verizon network. It's resting in a data center in the United States. You're tapping into it through bootstrap roaming. So it comes from your country over to the US, and we solve for it that way. On the topic of data analytics and the volume of data that we're seeing from our customers, we see both. We still see NB IoT, as you mentioned. It's not going away because there are customers that need it. We have the network to provide that service. We also see that the data usage is being driven up. That's because there's so many things that are being created in the market that are becoming cool. And essentially, you have the automotives that are doing in-car Wi-Fi connections, or they're providing analytics to those cars. And it's driving that volume from our viewpoint that's requiring those higher different customization rate plans to provide those services. So I talked really fast and a lot. First of all, again, thank you. I'm sorry for being late. If you saw my picture, I was out hiking, so I needed a selfie. That's why I was late. But from my viewpoint, I think IoT has been around for a long time, but I think it's still going somewhere really cool. And you just have to be with a partner that's going to be in this space for a long time. And I think the carriers and the MNOs are by default in that long run from a product viewpoint.
Okay, thank you. Arun, you mentioned in your opening statement about products and about services. So can you guide us a little bit in that, and maybe you can pinpoint a bit on the, what are the key challenges and opportunities actually, without naming all the 100 things, but the main the key opportunities and challenges you see with the new services and products in IoT.
Thank you, Eric. So if we, I'm going to sort of slightly challenge some of a theme that's been running through.
I love that.
Running through the conversation, which is about, oh, we're not making any money from this, or how do we? So I've got some ideas, okay? Because some of our clients are making a lot of money, and the multiples of EBITDA. Eric and I are both involved in M&A, and we've seen some crazy multiples. I mean, ridiculous multiples.
I love that.
And the reason is because of the sorts of things that the service providers are bringing to the table. So the first point I wanted to get out is that I think we should think of the market in two, right? Which is low bandwidth, the smart city type stuff where it's not about streaming, it's about the SIM, right? Or the eSIM. And then we look at high bandwidth. And as you said, high bandwidth is really booming, right? So if we look at them in that way, then we've got to think about from an operator perspective. When we negotiate our airtime agreements, we split them into two deals, right? One is for the lots and lots of SIM cards that are a headache to the network because they eat up, operational cost and whatnot. You don't know what's happening with them. So we say, okay, just give us a fixed fee for that, right? And a little bit of data, it's enough. But give us a different deal for the high bandwidth, which is in buckets. Now, the pricing needs to be very, very simple. So that's the first sort of monetization opportunities, to understand the type of application that sits on top. Okay, the second one is the application. So data is the number one word, I would say. I think if we understand how to manage data, we've just done a big regulatory project in your region actually, for the regulator, and we said forget about digitization, it's about data and security. If we can add security features, so specifically alerting, monitoring, telling the customer through a portal that your device is hacked or it's fallen over, you can charge a lot for that, and people pay premium. We call that critical communications, which is an important thing. And then we look at things like analytics, as you mentioned, Valentina, in terms of understanding what's going on in the network, and we're seeing a lot of that sort of bringing us monetization. So that's kind of like a couple. There's many ideas, but then if we look at vertical specific, one of the things I wanted to get across is this idea about fleet management. And if we take one use case of transport and cargo, I think that if we look at IoT in isolation in terms of the bearer, and we look at cellular, I think we're going to miss a trick, right? There's a big premium to be made if we understand the integration of satellite, cellular, low bandwidth, so low power rather, I should say, and Wi-Fi. And if we understand that, and we don't have to own that infrastructure, where we can partner with. So we did a project for a company called Ground Control, which is satellite IoT, and they're now adding the cellular piece, working for cellular companies, adding the satellite piece, but that conversation is not happening yet. That conversation is missing. So those are some sort of quick fire monetization ideas, but I think that when the solution, I think you made a really good point that we did this because we need it. Enterprises will pay if it's going to improve productivity, improve security, improve an understanding of where their fleet and devices are. Yeah, so we need to also bear in mind that we need to be able to control the devices at the same time as the data.
Amen. Thank you so much. Anyway, so Ronnie, your point of view on the where do you see the, let's say, the challenges and the big opportunities on the new IoT products and services, solutions?
Yeah, I think the challenges were, first of all, on the monetization. I would say that we need to offer our enterprise customers to make money from their monetization. I think we need to be able to have an open network so they can monetize that. Today, I was recently at one of our headquarter conferences internally, and we were presented that we have today 600 million network events a day on our network across the world. And so it's not for us to monetize that. I mean, as Flow Live, perhaps the MNOs, locally in their own country, but we provide this to our customers in order for them to have an open view on that and complete transparency, so they could monetize on that. And I think that's our way to present that. I think in terms of I like the definitely sort of second this on the satellite. So we today work with 15 of the leading MNO groups around the world, across all their opcos in Africa and Asia and Europe, also with Telefonica on being one of our partners. But we've also filled this gap with the satellite. So today we're working with Skylo. We were announcing several more partnerships around. So we see a satellite operator as really another MNO to fill in those gaps. And we also open the network to them for our customers to consume this in a very similar way. But I think if I come back to the last thing about the challenges, I think we find that the challenges are security and network performance, and having sort of a single network performance. I think that's the biggest challenge for what I see sort of blue chip customers. I think their main issue, if you sit down with them and say, we cannot understand how you're going to provide us, if I'm a customer for one MNO, how are you going to provide me that same level of service across the network, whether if we're using UICC or we're not using UICC, if they're using their own core network, if it's on UICC, the host network is now becoming the core network infrastructure, and they cannot really provide that same level. And I think that's the main challenge for our enterprise customers.
Okay, thank you, Shabir. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to add, say, we are, again, from the shoes of the telco as a carrier service provider. We look for the two things. Number one, how we can optimize our OpEx. And second thing, how we can meet the market requirements. As Arun has highlighted, yes, totally agree with you. We are a highly regulated market with lots of restrictions from the government. Let's not go into detail, but it becomes very challenging that you need to, you have a solvency risk in one end, another end, you want to be a profitable business entity. So how we overcome it? We came to a few fundamental point of view. Now, you can't go to the regulatory and say, the government, please change the rules. That's nearly impossible. That's not going to be
You can try.
Well, there's no ears. We always fail for that. Yeah, it didn't
Still
work.
waiting, right?
Yeah, so to be honest, we are the blue ocean market. There's lots of business opportunities. The other end, the showstoppers, other regulatory requirements. Now we come with the fundamentals. Now we start looking at as it says, the network events. Now we came to conclusion, okay, we have 11 countries, network in 11 opcos. So let's summarize, I mean, just put in the GNOC concept, same Vodafone or the T-Mobile. And we come with Doha base, everybody like monitoring all the network elements, and here the needs come in. It says now we have technical buildings in 11 countries and 11 opcos, we have a telco site, how we can integrate and we can look for our own internal need. That's one thing. Now it's just kickoff, but we have a very high hopes that's going to be a huge OPEX reductions when you have a centralized rather than have 11 managed services partner, let's say Ericsson, Huawei, or working different countries. It could be, in a different perspective. Now, in the same time, we look for the markets, we look for the business needs in the market. We start collaborating with the different entities, financial institutes, the government entities, that's how we can collaborate. But we have two benefits, right? Number one, the data, as even the lower, we have a low bandwidth or go for eSIMs, it still makes money for us. That's number one. And second, if we can utilize the data and we provide you the fundamental, I mean, the infrastructure, and we can help you to segmentize and personalize the data sets for you. So these two areas for us. But if I summarize for the challenges, yes, the regulatory is number one. Security is it's again the main topic of the regulatory. Number three, it's about, it's very hard sometimes to convince the stakeholders from the ROIC. It says the CapEx is involved in it. And if the equation looks, everything when you go to management looks very fascinating and says you have ROI in this number of years, you will have this much profit margins, but it always has a question mark that's, can you guarantee that? So that's looking for the joint ecosystems, working with the different players. We don't want to do everything by in-house. This will be working different technology partners, technology players, and all together. And we leverage, the portfolio, adding new revenue streams, right? So challenges again, the regulatory, security, and the stakeholders buy-in. Another end, if you look at flip the coin, it says the positive side, yes, there's a need. There's an internal need as well as the external need. And you can make, I mean, a reasonable amount of money out of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Still have 5 minutes only left. Only 5 minutes left. So we need to move on. So Valentino, for you, we see a shift to, let's say, hosted in the cloud, right? And but the shift of hosted the IoT solutions on the cloud, is it contributing to the increase of the complexity of the service offering, or is it actually not? Because
yeah, so from our point of view, I think it's simplifying the development of IoT. Basically what we see being a Chinese overseas office for a big Chinese company, we managed to develop the SaaS platform, thanks to the partnership with AWS in Ireland. But that can give us access and scalability in other markets as well. So it kind of take a headache away from us. And then by the cloud, we can also help the Chinese enterprise in going abroad, offering them maybe services on Huawei, Ali Cloud, and Tencent Cloud. Likewise, for the European, they already, for example, use for IoT AWS, we can also have their project done in China by AWS China. So for what I see in just the business of the day-to-day, the cloud help us to develop and scale.
okay, Shane, anything to add to that? Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. So from my perspective, I'm from the US, so I brought over my iPhone. Luckily, there's an adapter where iPhone 14. So there's an adapter where I can plug it into the wall and charge it, right? So when you look at like the legacy ecosystems for IoT and the carrier networks, they're so fragmented in the sense that everybody has their own design, everybody has their own operating system. And while the cloud computing at the hyperscale level is not always the same in every country, it does help to simplify the process and the integration. So when we have our own cloud, which Verizon does, will integrate with AWS or Azure or whomever. And then there's that connection between those big partners, and then we can scale that internationally with their partners as well.
All right. So, Ronnie, want to start with you? Let's say let's do a closing round.
Okay.
Can you tell the people what can they expect in the future? What is your glass ball prediction, if you have one? What do you see coming? What's heading towards us in the IoT space?
I think that we're on the roaming side. I think I see less and less, pretty much because what you said, iPhone 14 opened up the world for consumer local connectivity. So I see that that's sort of declining. The global roaming is declining. I don't think that will be able to afford to maintain roaming just for IoT. I think that would sort of decline. But I think on the numbers side, you know, I was there in some event in Ericsson CEO in, I think in 2008, when he said 50 billion devices by 2000, whatever it was, 2020. I think there's always, you know, where are all those billions of devices? But definitely we see a growth expanding sort of, you know, quarter on quarter on those numbers. I think all of us see it. The carriers see it, the service providers see it, the enterprises are getting there. It's at a price point where we see those numbers growing. So for me, that's on the short term. On sort of, I'd say 10 years time, I think we see a lot more privacy concern and sort of more control from individuals, from devices, device manufacturers, from the enterprise. I think a lot more control, a lot more private network around the IoT. You know, I think we're going to be able to provide, those large enterprises will want to run sort of more of their own network. Even if they don't run the radio access, they might want to run their cores, they might want to run more packet gateways of their own, especially with 5G being sort of an open IP standard. I think we're going to see a lot more private network for enterprises, even across sort of multiple locations. I would say that the fact that we're not going to be able to provide them the levels of service and security that they want will drive the large enterprises to build more mobile private network across multiple geographies. So I see that on the sort of the 5 to 10 year scale happening a lot more. That's my view. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Shabir.
Well,
What's coming?
well, from our side, it looks like we have more collaborative joint ventures with different startups. We'll be not only a connectivity provider as a solution provider as well, but not ourselves. We're working with the different startups. Like, just give example, we kick off some discussion with the smart doors, smart mirrors, different sportwears. So something more collaborative approach. Now, the second area, I'll just again repeat security. Yes, definitely. It's becoming more and more concerns from the authorities. Now, there's a topics. I mean, there's a latest study says 3 attributes: your name, your gender, and your date of birth can be monetized. These are not classified as PII. So that's, imagine like how scrutiny will take place. That'll be a more challenge in the long run for us.
Thank you. Ulf?
Yeah, I think the future will be very interesting. We will move closer together. We have to handle also some challenges in terms of privacy and security issues, especially for certain countries. They are a little bit more restricted than other ones. And I think it's just like more trust on the partners, building up strong partnerships and not being like the how can I say, the big player in terms of you have to join us. No, it's about building up a team all together. We need more than we can. In the past, we were maybe a little bit arrogant, say like we are to one operator and you have to listen what to do. No, it's completely different. We are going with partnerships, collaborate, and building things together because we need it to make the IoT world much more successful and efficient and flexible to our future business. So just imagine in terms of AI, what will happen. It will really change our completely world, our behavior in terms of schools, kids, what they learn, how they learn. So these things are very important to bring these nicely together and get advantages in terms of progress and not ruining themselves for the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Aaron.
Okay, so like any good consultant, I've got a 3-step process of the future, right? On the operator side of things, I think that things need to change to affect what I'm going to suggest is going to go crazy, right? So I think as a kind of creating an as a service model, so it's easy to connect, right? So therefore we need to have real-time data offered. We need to have clear pricing split between the low and bandwidth I mentioned, and there's some clever things we can do there. Offering a contiguous solution. So right now, a lot of deals we're doing is saying you have to be exclusive on us. You can't go and do a deal with somebody else. So the multi-IMSI thing becomes tricky. You have to roam plus local. It gets complicated. And then the last point on that is having a platform that allows you to look at your devices, manage your SIMs, easy to connect, open APIs, all of that. That's layer one. The second thing I think is going to happen, there's many things, but the biggest thing, I think the consumerization aspect. So I call it the hyper-connected future. By that, I mean wearables, metaverse. I think you mentioned AI and e-learning, all of these sorts of things. My kids don't even need to go to school now. Well, we've only got one left in school, but it's all done and they have to be connected all the time. And that leads me to my final point, which is that I think that on a wholesale level and industry level, there's going to be a blurring of IoT concepts and the old traditional voice and data, because I think that the economics are very, very similar, but it's all moving to data anyway. And I think that whole divide and the wholesale level is gonna all merge to create this hyper-connected future.
So be aware, guys. Be aware. Jane?
Sure. So first of all, on a commercial side, I see partners, specifically OEMs, looking to partner with MVNOs or MNOs operating as MVNOs globally. I do see the demand for EUICC kind of growing as that demand emerges from our partners. Forward thinking, I really see the strong connection between carriers and satellite providers for a couple reasons. One is typically, traditionally, the satellite providers have been geospatial or geo in nature, meaning they had very few satellites in space and connectivity for those narrow bandwidth IoT connections, like my Garmin watch or simple things like that. As it evolves with companies like SpaceX, OneWeb at the LEO and of course the MEO level, we're seeing a potential to drive a lot of speed and low latency, not low latency, but a lot of speed on devices on the endpoints using that technology. So where the partnership comes into play is that within the US, at least, Verizon made a significant investment in spectrum. So those operators on the LEO and the MEO side have made significant capital investments. We've made significant investments in the spectrum. There's an inherent partnership, I think, that's going to come out of those two relationships and drive the space. And this is going to solve for a lot of not dead spots, but new emerging solutions within the US environment. And finally, from a network perspective, we're focused on 5G. We've got C-band rolling out, which operates at a different frequency as which most of the satellite providers operate on. They typically use like a millimeter wave service. So as C-band 5G connectivity becomes more dominant in our country, in the US, we're going to have a lot of LTE connectivity just sitting there, riding on its own infrastructure, that we're going to have a demand internally to position it with IoT partners and drive the business with that service.
Thank you. Valentina, you have the honors for the...
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, what I think what I see is, at the moment is like crisis, is like difficult, is geopolitical issues. There are issues for IoT, a lot of consolidation, a lot of companies that are kind of disappearing or changing the business model. I think IoT will not go away, is in a lot of the different projects that we are rolling out. And what I see for the future, hopefully, is collaboration, especially amongst MNO to MNO, normally, especially on the IoT business, we bring our own enterprise home customer. So China Mobile, we drive the business by Chinese enterprise customer, Verizon, by the American customer. This customer, they are only his customer. My customer are probably only my customer. So, but I need collaboration with MNO. I need to understand, and other IoT players, I need to understand how to roll out the business in the best way, and sharing the knowledge. So it's about a lot about sharing knowledge. It's a lot about creating a new network. All the issue and probably the delay we have in the IoT is because the network was not designed to do IoT. The network was not designed for a pandemic. The network was not designed for, you know, the services that we are having now. So what we need to do is creating a new network. We have to upgrade, we have to, and all the disruptive technology has to be embedded in our network, right? So, and this can only happen with partnership with other, you know, players that really can give us the knowledge. And also, you know, working a lot with university, government, research institutions. I think that is really the way forward.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Valentina. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Arun, Ulf, Shabir, and Ronnie. Thank you so much for being here. You audience, thank you for being here and staying with us at this opening session at the IoT Summit here at the GCCM. We covered quite actually some submatter topics. We didn't go into it that much, I know, but it's too complex to go within an hour to go in everything. But you're lucky because there are more IoT sessions to come with me, but also with my good friend and partner and help as well. So Arne, you will also have a session later on too, right? 1 o'clock. So please join that if you like that. We're here to inform you. We're here to serve you. Thank you for being with us. And Vale and China Mobile International, thank you so much for sponsoring this session. And I hope to see you around. And let's go for it, guys.